our fellow co-debaters, and our beloved audience. My name is Peter Springs from Team 3, and joining me today are my colleagues.
Chinwe Ibuzo.
Egbuchulem Collins.
Today, we are going to be proposing the motion that gender roles are the leading cause of inequality in our society today. And for contextual, we are going to be defining some key terms. Gender roles in society simply refer to the culturally and socially determined set of expected behaviors that are supposed to guide how we act, communicate, or dress based on the notions of our masculinity. Gender inequality, on the other hand, refer to a social, legal, or cultural situation where one gender is denied rights or treated unequally because of their notions of femininity or masculinity. In this discussion on three main premises. Number one being the fact that gender roles are steeped in biased cultural norms which foster inequality. Secondly, gender roles inherently build personal and social bias. And thirdly, gender roles have redefined our communication, resulting in gender coded languages. Based on this premise, I leave it open to my colleagues to take over.
Standing on existing protocol, our first premise states that gender roles have their roots in existing cultural values and practices that foster inequality. Cultural gender roles in Nigeria play a significant role in perpetuating gender inequality, affecting both men and women in various aspects of their life. For women, cultural gender roles often confine them to domestic roles and caregiving responsibilities. The division of labor limits women's access to education, economic opportunities, and decision-making power within their families and communities. This practice reinforces the idea that a woman's primary value lies in their ability to fulfill their role as wives and mothers rather than as individuals with their own aspirations and capabilities. Also, traditional norms around marriage, inheritance, and widowhood further disadvantages women, denying them equal rights and perpetuating economic dependency on male relatives. The son preference syndrome, which is seen as a traditional inheritance law and practice which exists in many Nigerian communities, including Enugu State, often deny women the right to inherit property. This has created the belief in the superiority of a male child over a female child, or even over female children. These cultural expectations can lead to pressure to conform to rigid gender norms, which limit their emotional expression and serves as a discouragement to pursue non-traditional roles such as nursing, caregiving, and emotional support. Also, gender roles inherently create social and personal biases. Gender roles in Nigeria, particularly in Enugu State, creates personal and social biases that can perpetuate inequality in various aspects of life. These biases stem from deeply ingrained cultural norms, expectations regarding the roles and behaviors deemed appropriate for both men and women. Individuals internalize these gender roles from a young age through family upbringing, through cultural practices, and societal influences. Gender roles in Nigeria and broadly in many cultures significantly limit the expressiveness of males by imposing rigid expectations about masculinity. These social norms dictate that men should be stoic, strong, and emotionally restrained, which impacts their ability to express a full range of emotions and to seek support when needed. Inappropriate for men, but appropriate for women who are weak. The weaker vessels, as often said. This leads to higher levels of stress, anxiety, and depression due to their inability to communicate their emotional needs. These are noted in situations such as male silence in traumatic experiences like rape, and the lack of provision made for married corps members and the National Youth Service Corps to serve in their wife's state of residence, even though this provision currently exists for married female corps members. Such situations are rarely talked about and addressed in the same severity as females because of its inherent female characteristics. Moreover, the teaching of females to be nurturing, submissive, and focus on domestic responsibilities has led to barriers in education and career advancement, with women being often steered towards fields that are deemed appropriate for their gender. This overall affects their financial independence, as it is projected by the United Nations Development Programme that Nigerian women dominate the unpaid sector and have an economic value of only 30% on the gross domestic national product. Holistically, these stereotypes unarguably shapes individuals' perception, aspirations, and life choices, influencing their education and career paths based on perceived gender norms rather than their actual abilities and interests. Socially, these stereotypes have led to belief that men are more deserving of leadership positions, even among females. This has resulted in a corresponding increase in men holding positions of power in both public and private spheres, while women are frequently marginalized and underrepresented in leadership positions. In the realm of family and social relationships, gender role dictates expectations regarding marriage, parenting, and caregiving responsibilities. Women bear the primary burden of household chores, childcare, and elderly care, even when they are also engaged in paid employment. This unequal distribution of domestic labor hinders women's career advancement and perpetuates their secondary status within the family structure, thereby creating inequality.
Furthermore, gender roles has resulted in gender-coded languages. This has affected corporate communication and has led to the propagation of gender inequality in terms of professional attainments and aspiration. Gender-coded language arises from deeply ingrained gender roles and contributes to inequality by perpetuating stereotypes and reinforcing societal expectations. This type of language include words, phrases, expressions that reflect and reinforce traditional beliefs about what behavior, traits, and roles are appropriate for men and women. This can discourage women from applying for certain positions or being perceived as suitable leaders, thereby limiting their career advancement and perpetuating gender disparities in the workplace. It is important to note that our present society, women who exhibit strengths traditionally associated with leadership such as assertiveness or ambition may be labeled as bossy or aggressive, while men displaying the same traits are praised for their leadership. This double standard reinforces the idea that leadership and assertiveness are male traits, marginalizing women who do not conform to traditional feminine roles. These subtle cues would create a negative guide for the growing generation who may begin to adopt behaviors that align with traditional gender roles. This would in turn begin to shape their self-perception and aspirations. So let's talk about the solutions. With gender roles being in fact the leading cause of inequality in society, what then can we do to salvage these challenges? Our preposition, awareness, and intentional effort to correct our biases is that we must first accept that we have these biases. We believe that platforms such as these for intelligent discourse are one of the tools to create awareness of our biases, giving us the responsibility to correct them. Gender roles, stereotypes are a social construct built over time. Therefore, our consistent intentional effort to debunk this fallacy over time will naturally eradicate such stereotypes from our society, creating an environment that fosters gender equality.
In conclusion, one may say, why not blame our culture rather than gender roles? Culture is an integral part of human existence. Without culture, we would have no identity, and our identity as individuals is what shapes us. It is therefore important to distinguish our identity from our biases. If you say culture is the leading cause of gender inequality, what aspect of culture are you referring to? Is it our language, food perhaps, dressing, or territory? You would agree with me that all these things do not foster gender inequality. However, all these things may as well define our culture. This tells us that the very thing that fosters gender inequality in our society or in our culture are actually gender roles. Gender roles are no doubt important in our cultural heritage and development as a people. It is, however, crucial for each and every one of us to become conscious of the subconscious bias it creates in our minds and how these biases affect our development as a society. If we are to maximize our human resources and grow our economy while maintaining virtues of fairness, equity, and dignity, we must start making a conscious effort to address these biases. The good news, however, is that by identifying these underlying biases and with the proper education, intentional efforts to mitigate them, we can move on beyond the limitations to create a society that upholds justice, equity, and fairness across all gender. Building an ideal society is a journey of process, and we believe understanding the impact of gender roles in fostering gender inequality is the first step. And we wish to say
Thank you very much for listening.